Romans 2:29. But he is a Jew which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God. What that's telling us simply is this: does God focus on the outer man or the inner man? He focuses on the inner man. The scribes and the Pharisees in Israel were all circumcised. They kept the outward observance in the law, but they were not circumcised in heart. Let me show you this. Get Matthew 23, verse 27. Matthew 23 and verse 27. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! For ye are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of all uncleanness. So the Lord looks at the Pharisees in Israel and says, you have an external righteousness like a whited sepulchre. The appearance is great, but inwardly it's dead men's bones. They weren't circumcised in heart. Romans 2:29 said this, whose praise is not of men, but of God. And I think that is a very specific reference to the Pharisees. So look with me at Matthew 23. You're in Matthew 23. Look at verse 2. Saying, the scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. In other words, the scribes and the Pharisees were the leaders of Israel, just as Moses had been in his day. Look at verse 5. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. Whose praise do they want? They want the praise of men. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments. They're obviously doing things to be seen. They don't care about the praise of God. They care about the praise of men. Look with me at John 12, verse 42. John chapter 12, verse 42. Nevertheless, among the chief rulers, also many believed on him. So during the Lord's earthly ministry, the truth of the matter is that many of the chief rulers actually believed on him. But notice what happened. But because of the Pharisees, they did not confess him, lest they should be put out of the synagogue. So the Pharisees here's the way they designed it. If you confess Christ, what are we going to do? We're going to boot you out. And that was the rule. So what did many of the chief rulers do? Well, many of the chief rulers, they believed on him, according to verse 42, but what did they do? They were silent. They didn't say anything because they didn't want to be kicked out of the synagogue. Look at verse 43. For they loved the praise of men more than the praise of God. And that was the problem. If you love the praise of men more than the praise of God, then you will do things to please men instead of pleasing God. And of course, we need to love the praise of God more than the praise of men. So let's tie this all together. What we've seen in Romans 1 and Romans 2, a lot of it has been sort of weighty. A lot of it has been convicting, right? What we're looking at is we're looking at the section of Romans that God uses to declare the world guilty. What many people think, I'm basically a good person. I have a flaw here and there. I'm not perfect, but I'm a good person. My good outweighs my bad. That's how people think about themselves. That's the self-talk they say to themselves to feel good about themselves. But what does Romans 1, 2, and 3 say? Romans 1, 2, and 3 is for the purpose of eliminating any illusion as to your righteousness, as to your ability to please God in your works. In preaching the gospel, people have to realize they're sick. If I was your physician and you had a terminal disease, and it's going to kill you, and what I said to you is, you're good, don't worry about it, you're fine. Am I doing you a favor? I'm lying to you. I'm giving you false comfort. What I need to do, my obligation, is to give you the brutal, honest, hard truth, to tell you what it is. And we're going through the section of Romans that is the brutal, honest, hard truth, which is all the things that man esteems and all the things that man boasts in and he's proud about. They're all nothing. There is no righteousness in man. And the purpose of the early part of Romans is to establish that so that people see their need so they can then accept the solution. There's too many people that don't think they have a need because they've bought into the lie that in their works they're good enough to please God, and it's just not so.